my friends. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Arizona Youth Alive podcast. I'm so grateful that you would take 20 minutes of your day and join us. So what are we here to do? We want to make you and help you become better influencers in your world. Why? It's because leadership is all about influence. So if you're a student trying to lead on your campus, or if you're a youth pastor and you're leading people, we want to help you become better leaders, because that's what we're here to do. And today I got my great friend with me, Jacob Jester. He's the pastor of Compel Church, where I moved out here about 5 years ago now, and I joined him on his church plant team. So he is actually our very first guest on this podcast. So Jacob, welcome. Why don't you say a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm really excited to be on here. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to be on this podcast, and especially as you get into the brand newness of it, such a joy and a privilege. So my name is Jacob Jester. I've been married to my wife for almost 15 years. We have 3 children, and so for 13 years, I was a full-time evangelist, just traveled and preached the gospel for 13 years, and then 6 years ago, we moved here from the Kansas City, Missouri area, and then a year later, we planted Compel Church, and we still meet today at 67th and Deer Valley in Glendale. We are just crossed our 5-year mark, excited, more excited than ever about what God's doing, and looking forward to continuing to pursue leadership and develop people. And man, I'm so excited, Christian, to be on here.
Awesome. Also, one of the things that we do here is we just roll with the punches. And so yes, there's people cleaning the windows right behind us. But we just roll with the punches. Because you know what Proverbs says, blessed are the flexible, for they should not be broken. That's Proverbs 32. Just so you're wondering, it's the message. So, but what we want to do is this podcast is it's a bi-weekly podcast. 1 week will be a video of me doing some practical teaching in regards to Youth Alive and how-to type of stuff. And then the other weeks are going to be interviews. And my heart would be, I want to take influencers who are leading in their areas and help apply what they're doing to what you're trying to accomplish. Because I think here's the thing. We can all learn from each other's stories. I'm going to learn from him, and maybe he's learned from me. And I hope that you learn from what we're doing here today. And so 20 minutes of content. And so here we go. I'm just going to ask a couple questions, and then we'll get right into it. So what I want to talk to you about today is this idea of pioneering something from nothing. So tell me, from about 2013, is that when the whole process or 2012? When did the process start for Compel?
So we had been on the road, for 13 years, and knew that something was changing. We were living in Kansas City, Missouri at the time, and just felt that there was a change coming in our life. Now, we always loved Phoenix. We had come here for ministry. We'd been able to do ministry here, and that was always a privilege. And we just felt like this area was like home to us. Even before we lived here, we would travel here. And I remember my wife, one time we were driving down from Payson, crossing down through the mountains on the Beeline Highway, and she said, I feel like we're coming home. We just knew that God had really wanted us to be here. So that whole process started in 2012. We drove here, found a house, moved in January of 2013, and in the beginning of 2013 started the process of figuring out what Compel Church was supposed to look like, which, mind you, we did not know. We didn't have a clue about what church planning was supposed to look like, and what starting something from scratch was supposed to look like. But I think that's the reason why a podcast like this exists, so we can have conversation and we can learn from the experiences of other people.
Yeah.
So it all started about 6 years ago.
Yeah. Well, so what's something like when you were just getting moving? So as you know, we started Youth Alive here in Arizona about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and I still don't really have any idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out as we go and pray the Lord has His hand upon it. So for you, or in Kristen, what were some things that you wish you knew that if you were to talk to 6 years ago Jacob, or let's say a youth pastor who's thinking about starting something on campus, or a student trying to get a club started or something along those lines, what are some things that you wish you knew early on that you don't now?
I wish I knew better how to ask questions of people who had done things before me. I've always considered myself to be a person who loves to ask questions. I like to know what you've done. I like to know what other leaders have done. I like to talk to people who've been down the road before me. So if you're a youth pastor, or if you're a student in the room and you're wanting to start a Youth Alive campus club, or you're starting something from scratch, there are going to be things that you know, and there are going to be things that you don't know. But here's the catch: you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And the only people who know anything about the road that you're getting ready to travel on are people who've done things even remotely similar. So learning to be a person that asks questions, learning to get in a room with a leader and just say, tell me about your story. Tell me about your journey. One of the things that even today, as I still get to travel and speak, that kind of frustrates me is to be in the room with young adults who are in leadership colleges, who may have an hour's drive with me from an airport to a campground, who sit in that car but don't ask questions. I think the greatest way to learn something about our future, and the greatest way to learn something about people who've been places we've never been, is just to ask the question.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, but there's a likelihood that there might be somebody close to you who knows a little bit about what you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Man, ask the questions. Get around people who have done it, people who are way ahead of you, and people who are just a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
Maybe you talk to a senior. Maybe you talk to a youth pastor who's done it for years now, and you just spend time getting to know them, asking the question, tell me about your story. That's so important.
I heard a leader say recently, a pastor say on a podcast just like this, talking about how the greatest leaders are the ones that are asking the most questions.
Good.
And like, for instance, shout out to you, Theo, wherever you are. One of the things I value so much about Theo is anytime we're with him. So we were just on our network tour this beginning of this year, and the last two stops was just me and him, and for about a 4-hour drive both ways, he literally all he did was ask questions about my ministry, and I'm like, you're not even like we're a part of this together, we're a team, but like you're really like, what makes you want to ask questions? And I think it's because he legitimately cares, but he has this desire to learn. So I love this idea that like if you're going to start something, ask questions. So what about this? I want to get to something here is for students that are doing something on campus. We always say you've got to organize a team.
Sure.
You cannot do this without a team.
Right.
So for me, I'm very entrepreneurial, but I'm really terrible when it comes to just putting feet to plants. Like, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. So talk to me for just about a minute or so. But what does it look like? How did you develop a team? How did you develop a team around you to do what you're doing?
When you're looking to develop a team and to get people around you, you need people who you trust. You need people who believe in the vision that you're espousing, the things that you believe God's called you to. They also need to believe in that. But more than anything, they really need to believe in you first. People buy into you before they buy into your vision. They buy into the person that you are long before they buy into the vision that God has put in your heart. So if you're starting a campus club, or if you're looking to get on the campus for the very first time, or maybe if you're a youth pastor and you're saying we're gonna start this brand new ministry, sometimes we become focused on just pulling people in, but it's not that we just want people, it's that we want the right people. And the right people are people that you already trust and who already believe in you. Because they're going to be the ones who are going to fight so diligently for what God's put in your heart. Not necessarily because they completely understand the vision or understand the direction, but they believe in you. Yeah. They believe in what you're saying. And that's very important as you're beginning something from scratch, something fresh, is that they believe in you. Pull people onto your team and pull people around you who have a heart for you, who you love and you can spend time with, and then cast vision often and with passion for what God's called you to.
So do you think the leader has to be the most passionate one? If you're the pioneer, you have to be the most passionate person.
Good question. I think it helps to be the most passionate person, but there are leaders who are not that passionate. They might be passionate in here, but when they speak vocally, they're like, I just want to start a club. I think God's going to move. It's going to be amazing. Let's do this. Yeah. What do you do with that? you then buy into the vision, what they're saying, because
Yeah.
you want to do that as well. So passion is always important, but demonstrative passion isn't always the thing that brings people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just your words connecting with what God is already speaking to their heart.
Yeah.
And that's important.
So we have a young lady at one of our clubs. I don't necessarily would never say she's the most extroverted person.
Sure.
She'd probably agree with me that she's more of a shy person. But her club has exploded. Like
Yeah.
40, 50 kids are showing up every single week. Why? It's because she's gathered around her one of the lead football players.
It's amazing.
Who is the influencer, and and then another young lady, and then just a crazy extroverted youth pastor who is like she's the driving force. So I think a lot of times students think I'm not the draw, so therefore I can't do it.
Right.
And I think for Compel, you are the visionary, but a Pastor Ray would be the one who, like, if we say if I'm not the extrovert, I can't lead. It's like saying I'm the entrepreneur, so I can't do any of we can't have a productive church.
Yeah.
But you just get the people behind you. So that's really, really great. These last few minutes, I want to kind of transition to, there's a story of the summer of 2014. You put on a movie night.
Summer of 2013.
2013, put on a movie night.
Yeah.
Free hot dogs, right? Woo! In June?
In June.
Okay. And nobody came.
Nobody.
So tell me, let's talk about that.
So it's also why it's really important to understand culture where you are. What's your town like? What's your school like? What are the people like there? What are the leaders like in your school? What are they like on your campus? What are they like in the community that you're called to? We had moved to Phoenix with a little bit of arrogance, thinking we knew what the culture was like, but we really didn't. So in preparing for our church, we were going to launch in September of 2014 or 2013. Preparing for our launch, we decided to host a free movie night at the school that we meet at, in the high school, and we rented this gigantic projector and a screen, and we brought in literally not like hot dogs on a grill. We brought in a hot dog machine that shoots them out like free popcorn, cotton candy, everything that you could think of. And we passed out flyers and did door hangers, created a website for this event, and we held it in the middle of summer. I know what you're thinking, and you're right. We had no idea what we were doing. It actually got to 122 degrees that day, and no one came. And it's a good thing, because the projector shut itself off 6 times.
Because it was so hot.
Because it was so hot. So that made us reevaluate everything when we're launching, why we were called to plant a church. It also made us understand that we did not know, once again, what we thought we did. So it set me on a journey of trying to reevaluate what I thought I understood about our culture, what I thought I understood about our city, and then trying to determine our next steps forward. There are going to be times when things like this happen in your life. There are going to be times that things like this happen in what you're called to, where you're going to have this great plan, and it's not really going to come together. It's not really going to come to what you thought it was supposed to look like. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, do I believe in the plan, or do I believe that God's called me to this? Do I believe in this event?
That's good.
Or do I believe that God has put this in my heart?
That's good.
So you can go to your emotions, and whenever we make decisions on our emotions, statistics prove most of the time we make the wrong decision when it's based on our emotion. But when we go back to the call, when you go back to the fact God called you to plant a club, God called you to be a youth pastor, God called you to these big things, you make the right decision. Because my decision can't be based on the emotions that I feel right now, because if I do that, most of the time I'm going to make the wrong one. So I go back to my calling.
It's so good. Yeah. So, in other words, students that are watching, youth pastors that are watching, it's safe to say you're going to do something that bombs.
Right.
You're just going to. I was a youth pastor at a church plant, and there was times we did things that just absolutely. We had one night. Do you remember when we did our youth encounter? Had 89 kids show up on that, and then brought in a speaker, brought in a band. It was awesome, and then I'm going to say it was poor follow up. That's when The next week, 16 kids showed up. I was very like, what just happened? I'm about to lose my mind.
You probably wanted to quit.
Oh, super wanted to quit. But this whole idea that like if I do something once, and it doesn't work, I'm done. And so students out there who are starting club, if it's rough at the beginning, just like Pastor Jacob just said, if you believe this is what God has called you to do. I've talked to many students already who say, I feel like God has called me to do this. I'm just terrified of failing. And here's the thing. I would much rather you fail aggressively because you tried something and fell on your face. Pastor Jacob and Kristen, this is before I got here, but they tried something and they fell on their face. And as a result, they learned and they pushed it back to January 14th, January 12th, 2014. And then 9 months later, the perfect baby came, which was me, because I moved out here that August. Or that's 8 months. Dang it. I was premature. So anyway, students or youth leaders out there, if you're dreaming about pioneering something new, go with this idea. I'm not if I fail, but when I fail. I'm going to fail trying, and I'm not going to fail standing in the boat, criticizing those who are in the water, sinking. So, Pastor Jacob, this has been an honor to have you in our first ever Youth Alive interview. But really quick, I want you to just take another time to, where can people follow you? Where can people follow the church? Find the Compel's podcast? Or if they want to come to the church, where can they find it?
Sure. My Instagram is Jacob Jester, Jester, Jacob Jester. The church is Compel Church, Compel Church. And we meet at 10 a.m. at Mountain Ridge High School in Glendale. If you're going to fall forward.
It's good.
Fall forward.
Yeah. He also, he's a part of an organization called FeedOne. And in about a minute, can you give a quick pitch, and then we'll put the link in the description?
Absolutely. FeedOne is a compassion ministry by Convoy of Hope. We feed children around the world for $10 a month. 177,000 kids right now in 11 different countries are getting fed, with several new countries to be opened up this year. 177,000. That seems remarkable, and it is. But there are 100,000 kids right now that if we had people like you giving $10 a month, we could be able to feed 100,000 more right now.
Come on.
So by 2025, we believe that we're going to get to 1 million children, but we need people like you to say, we can do this.
Yeah.
So feedone.com is a place you can go to learn a little bit more about what we do.
Yeah. My wife and I started it last Thursday. Brittany and I, we picked up a child on a monthly support, and so I wouldn't ever tell you guys to do something we're not going to do ourselves.
Yeah.
So we'll put the link for that in the description. If you'd like to be a part of that, it'd be awesome. But anyhow, Pastor Jacob, thank you so much for being with us. I'm here today because of you. And so I will say this, let me say this on camera really quick. Pastor Jacob has been ideal in what you'd want a senior pastor to be. I was his youth pastor for 3.5 years, and then Youth Alive opened up here with the network, and I would say our friendship has gotten even stronger since no longer being on staff with you. And so I want to honor you in front of everybody. So thank you so much for allowing a smooth transition. So, man, I am more of my mother than I want to be. So I cried too much. Sorry, everybody.
Well, Pastor Christian is an amazing person, and you'll never find somebody who loves teenagers more than you. And I think that's just a remarkable testimony that God's brought you here, even though you're scared to death.
Yes.
You're scared to death to come. And God brought you here, and you've been able to have a baby.
Ooh.
Get married and have a baby, and not backwards.
That's a miracle.
Get married and have a baby. Yes, we all love Brittany.
Someone married me.
And now what God's brought you to, I think it's really cool that God's brought you to this, just because everybody knows that you're crazy.
Yes. Yeah. Super crazy. So, anyhow, also, if you're watching out there and you just want to give me a gift, I like shoes. So, just throwing that out there. Jordans, to be exact, Jordan 1s. So, if you just feel the need to support a missionary with Jordan 1s, I'm cool with that. I love you all. But that's all the time we have for today. And thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back. Our next one coming out soon. We'll be talking about how to launch a flagship campus club. So tune in for that. How do you know when it's coming up? Be sure you hit the subscribe button, and you'll get it right in your inbox. Or follow us on AZ Youth Alive on Instagram so you can get live updates as they come. And anyhow, thanks so much for tuning in, and let's reach every student, every school. Love you guys.